Welcome, everyone. I'm Jeff St Laurent, and I have today on a very special mentoring client of mine, Evie Burke, which I'm going to bring on in just a second. This is the Tuesday live show, and I want to kick this off because I want to get right into the interview because Evie's got a lot of great things. She's worked with me for quite a while, and she's done a lot of great things in her business. I want you to be able to see what she's doing, how she's done it, the ups, the downs, everything's along the way, because that's the realities of entrepreneurship and business. So before we get going and bring Evie on, I record all of these Tuesday live shows and I put them on my website, sellingcoaching.com, under the university. So please check that out. That's my goal of this years ago, right? When I started this niche within my coaching business. I've been doing it full time since 2004. But when I transitioned to help coaches transition to a full-time business, my mindset with my university was I wanted it to be like the go-to resource. Like nowhere online could you go to a place and have better, more detailed, comprehensive information. And the best part is it doesn't cost you anything besides the investment of your time. So check out my university. That's a long lead into it, but check out my university and my website, sellingcoaching.com. That's where all the recordings are. And then right on the homepage, great resource, especially if you're starting off, a resource for you. It's how to launch your full-time coaching business, the first 3 vital steps. So if you enter your name and email, that's going to get you into my email community. It's going to keep you posted on things we're doing. I also deliver some great content and education there as well. And it's also going to put you in my email community so you can start to see how I use email to communicate with my audience. Because as easy as Evie knows, that's a vital component to what we're doing. And so now I'd like to officially welcome Evie Burke to the show. Evie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's so great to have you. Yeah, Evie is with One Insight Closer, oneinsightcloser.com. We'll check that out as we get into the show. And she helps women entrepreneurs take productivity to a new level. So with that being said, let's rewind because you graduated from a coaching school, you said back in 2011.
Yep.
And then you did the business for about 5 years on your own.
Yeah. I had coaches here and there, but yeah, mostly on my own. Yeah.
And so when you came to me, and that's what I kind of want to get people, like to start people off is, so you had been doing some things and then you came to me. And so take us to where you were before we started mentoring. We did a group mentoring program.
Yeah.
Take us to where you were in terms of like, especially since you had been doing it for, let's just call it 5 years.
Yeah.
What were your frustrations? What were the things you were running up against that you're just like, help me with these?
Yeah. So I think over the course of that 5 years, I changed my niche 4 times.
Okay.
And so that was a huge contributing factor, but I didn't really realize it at the time. And right before we started working together, I remember, you going through like who do you help with what? And I was like, well, I help women entrepreneurs and I kind of do this and I can do this and I can do that. And so the biggest problem that I didn't realize that I had was I didn't have an itch. I didn't have how am I helping people? And that showed up in my business with not having any clients, not really people not knowing like who to send to me or how to refer me or what I did, because I didn't have a clear, like, this is what I do and this is how I help people. And I didn't have clear like programs or, how to work with me, set up. So people were like, well, we know Evie, she's been networking with us for a number of years, but they liked me, but they didn't know what I actually did. And I thought that, hey, they like me was going to, make me money. And liking people is great, but if they don't know what your business is, which is where I was at that time, then it doesn't really help. So I had gone through a number of programs where they were group programs, but they didn't have the touch, because they were like big group programs. And so they didn't have like the individual touch that really helped me see that I could know how to send out an email and I could know how to go out and network with people. But if I wasn't real clear on what I did, then it wasn't going to work out. So yeah, Does
Yeah.
that
And
kind of answer your
that's a
question?
big point is that, you do it for a while. And I run into a
Yeah.
lot of people, even some people I work with, is like, it's like you keep changing who you're going after. And it's really,
Yeah.
you're not necessarily changing it. It's like, you're not real clear and you don't quite see how it's going to
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
But you said, so you've gone through that long time span, and then you didn't get any clients, right? You said?
Yeah, I mean, I'd had a few clients over the course of the years, but when I started working with you, I didn't have any clients. I didn't have anybody that I was working with at the time.
Yeah.
And there was something else I was going to say that popped out of my head. Maybe it'll come back later. So.
Yeah. And I think just highlighting what you just said there is this, people have to know how to refer you or how to
Yeah.
buy from you, right? So it wasn't for a lack of you getting out there, because I remember you said
Right.
too, like you've always like you go to networking meetings, you
Mhm.
know, you get your message out, but it's a message where it's just like, how do I refer Evie to somebody, because I don't really even know what
Right.
she does? How do I buy Evie's products and or services, because I don't really know how they're going to help me?
Mhm.
I think I feel like where we started to really narrow it down in terms of taking a look at you and who you were
Yeah.
and what your strengths were. So talk about that process of how we started to narrow it down and where we get to
I
where we are
actually
now.
tell this story a lot when I'm networking with people or when I'm having one-on-ones with people, and they're like, so how did you end up at productivity? I'm like, well, about 2 years ago, I was working with this coach, and that's you. And one of the first things that we did when we had our group meeting, but everybody had, individual time, and you asked, and you went through this with everybody, who do you help and what do you help them with? And you wouldn't let me only kind of answer the question, which was really frustrating at the time, but it was exactly what I needed to really move my business to somewhere where it wasn't just people liking me, it was people going, oh, this is what Evie does. And I still like I help women entrepreneurs take productivity to a new level. Like that's still what I use just over 2 years later. People can recite it back to me, which is great, because then they have an idea, and even if they're not like super clear on what that means, they have a starting point. Like they hear, oh, somebody needs help, getting their things together or being productive, and they know who to go, and you should talk to Evie. That's where we started. Who do you help? What do you help them with? And I had the who. I didn't have the what very clear. And when we kind of got down to productivity, then the conversation was able to change to, okay, how are we going to word that in a way that is clear and allows people to know what you do and who a good referral is. And that really made a huge difference, because it gave me that, okay, this is what I talk about. And then after we did that, then it was, okay, what's the weekly content? What are the things that you can direct people to that you do every single week? And I had already done the newsletter, and you encouraged me to do lives. And so I've been doing lives since then. I think I'm in the 80s or 90s now with the lives. And one of my blocks was I had an old phone that didn't update it. And you're like, get a new phone. Like, don't let that hold you back. And so I got a new phone and started doing the lives. And now I have a webcam. So I've upgraded the tech a little bit. But, I started with what was the easiest thing to upgrade, and then, went from there. I didn't have to have like the perfect webcam or, the perfect lighting setup. It was just start where you are and start putting content out there for people to find you. Once I had that core, like, what do I help people with? Then it was, okay, now how do you market that? How do you start to put yourself out there?
Yeah, so getting clear on your marketing message so you can attract more people, so they know
Yeah.
who you are or how to refer you. And especially with you can get away, especially I always tell people, you can get away with being not super, super, super dialed in, because you're doing a lot of face-to-face networking and speaking engagements.
Yeah.
And so at your headline of helping women entrepreneurs take productivity to a new level, that's perfect for what you're doing, because productivity can mean something different for every single person, but they know that age-old thing of like, oh, I'm not productive, right? Or I'm stagnant.
Right.
So it's a great opening line to create a conversation, and they can see the outcome is to be more productive for that person.
Yep.
And so then, like you said, for you now that I can do that, how do I then, stay in front of those people, nurture those people, sell my products and services. Talk a little bit about, you talked about, your email list, which, correct me if I remember correctly, you were not using that at all, right? Or
no, when we started working together, I wasn't sending out emails. I had previous to that, like, I think I had stopped sending out the emails like maybe 3 months prior. But before that, like, I had been really good about every month sending out an email, or every week sending out an email. And then it just kind of petered off probably about 3 or 4 months before we started working together. And so you really encouraged me. It's like, okay, get that moving again. And so it was a habit that I could plug back into. So it wasn't daunting. It was just like, okay, yes, this is something I need to do again.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then we added in, so talk about your marketing structure briefly. Like you talked about, you're doing live video broadcasts every week, you're doing the emails every week. Just talk briefly about that and the value you've seen in creating that model.
Yeah. So yeah, I do an email every week. I do video every week. The videos are on hiatus through January, but the emails still go out regardless. And it gives me a way to connect with people. It gives me something to invite people to that's really low pressure, right? Because it's not like, hey, join this program and pay me money and we just met. It's, hey, it sounds like you'd be interested in this. Here's a video I did, or here's an upcoming thing that I'm doing. Would you be interested in, checking it out? I can send you the link. Joining the newsletter, if you're interested, just it gives you those like entry-level things so people can start to get to know you. And a couple of times networking when I've given my 30-second, intro, and I'll say, hey, and I have this live that I do every Wednesday. If you're interested in it, this is when I'm going live and I'm doing number, 90 whatever. And people will go, oh,
Yeah.
So it gives it like a different feel than, oh, this is number 3. Like when I can say I'm doing number, 92, they're a little more interested in it, right? But you don't start at 90 whatever. You start at 1 and you work your way forward, but you don't get to 90 whatever if you don't stop. And so it starts to build that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Talk about that when we started the live event, because now you were like in the 90s, early 90s.
Yeah, I'm in the early 90s, late 80s. I'd have to look and see exactly where I am.
So that just shows you the consistency, right? 90 live videos in every week in, week out. Of course, you miss a week here and there because of a holiday or whatever, right?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But I remember going back to, when we started that, it was just like, yeah, maybe let's do it in a couple weeks, or
and you're like, no, do it now.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
So the person, think about the coach right now who's watching this and they're just like, oh my God, like I could never do that. Like what happened? What got you to 1 to 2 to actually do it to 90?
Yeah. So there's a quote from I can't remember his name. I don't know if it's David Sedaris or somebody else, but it's about, a lot of times when we start something, like we look at it, we're like, oh, like and we see all of the ways it can improve. But the quote from him says, the reason that we see those areas of improvement is we know we can do better, but you can't do and I don't know exactly the quote, but basically you can't do better until you start doing it. And then you can improve it. But everybody has to start somewhere, right? Everybody has to start with oh, well, I need to change the lighting or change I'm pointing backwards because when I rearranged my office, I had sound bouncing back really bad. And so it was like, okay, so now I have to adjust that. But it wasn't until I went live a couple of times that I was like, oh, the sound is not where I want it to be. What can I do to adjust it? But you don't know those things if you don't start. So it's just about starting. And if you look at the people who have been doing, lives or podcasts or newsletters or fill in the blank for a long time, go back and listen to the first ones.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to be the quality that they are today. They're not going to have the interview skills that they have today because those were muscles that were built, right? They had to start somewhere. So it's just about getting started, and the rest of it will come. Like I remember when I started my lives, I'd have all of these notes written out about, what I wanted to cover, because what if I can't fill 10 minutes? And then 40 minutes later, I'm wrapping it up. I'm like, okay, that was too much content. I can't do 40-minute lives every single week. Like, that's just too much. You just learn. You learn like how much content you need. You learn what you might want to change with your setup, but it's incremental. Nothing, like, Rome wasn't built in a day, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So one thing I want to get into is, because so we help you hone your niche, website, free offer, email list, creating the weekly live events. So creating all that marketing structure, nurturing your audience, things like that. And now it comes to monetizing it, right? Getting clients and you've done a lot with your group programs. But one thing in particular, and I have a lot of students I've worked with over the years, and there's very few that I can say that there's certain I'm impressed with a lot of different things, but there's very few I can say I'm impressed with in terms of the work of putting in the time to make the lists, call the people, filling the classes. I mean, there's plenty of people that do that, but so when I give that compliment, I don't say that lightly.
Yeah.
So I was always impressed with you because you're like, okay, Jeff, I've got this mastermind that you've done, and you could talk about it, more eloquently, but forget about the details of the mastermind. Talk about the work to fill it and getting on the phone and creating the lists and that coming back and you can't do it. What do I say? That's the real stuff. Talk about the work, not so much the program you offer, but
the work behind it to get it filled. Yeah. So one of the when I would be networking, like just some of the things that would go into like creating that list of who to call. When I would talk about, I have this program coming up, or, the doors are opening on XYZ, noticing who is making a comment to the friend next to them or writing something down, and just following up with an email later and saying, hey, I noticed, you and the person next to you both seem to be going like, oh, yeah, what if we could, figure out how to be more productive? Wouldn't that be great? And just reaching out to them and say, hey, I noticed that. Or paying attention when I'd be at an event and maybe I was raffling off an item and somebody would, say, hey, I entered the raffle, and I wouldn't know who had entered for my item, and making a note, okay, reach out to them next time this program opens, or later when they show an interest, or just noticing who showed an interest, whether directly or indirectly, and then reaching out to them with the email, with the phone call, and saying, hey, are you interested in this? And paying attention to the people that said, I'm interested, but now's not the right time. And just saying, okay, well, can I reach out to you or send you an email or whatever next time this program opens? And I don't think anybody ever said no. And so just keeping that list of who that is, so then the next time actually sending them an email, the doors are opening for this, I have space in this program, and doing that follow-up. So that's how I've filled the programs, is reaching out and saying, hey, are you interested? And not just doing it once, but saying, the doors on this are closing, we're going to get started on this date, are you interested in this? And if they say no, not right now, great. Then I know not to follow up with them anymore. But if I don't hear from them, mostly I assume people are busy, and that's probably why they need me. And reaching out to them again a couple of days before, just continually reaching out and making those lists of people that have shown interest, but also noticing who I think would be a good fit for the program. So who I've talked to or who I've networked with, who do I think is a really great fit for this program? And regardless of whether they have shown an interest or not, reaching out to them and saying, hey, I have this program coming up and I thought it might be a good fit for you. Let me know what you think, or if you have any questions, or having those conversations with them. Usually for that kind of thing, I would do a phone call first just to touch base with them. But just making those lists too, so it's not just the people who've shown interest, but just paying attention with the people around me who I think might be a good fit, who I'd like to have in the program. And the distinction there being not like the people who I think would be really cool to have in the program, but who can I help? who would be served to be in this program, and I would be able to help them.
Listen, everything you're saying, it's proactive.
Yeah, yeah.
You moving, you shaking, you hunting people down, you're asking questions. I just call it digging, right? That's that. You're hustling, and you're creating something from nothing, right? You're taking a comment and saying, hey, I saw that you made this comment. Mm-hmm. That's what this business is all about. And as I'm listening to you, I'm just like, my whole body's just like, oh my God, like this is it. Like she gets it. Like this is all the work, that you did day in and day out. The week paid off, because that's the work. It's not, hey, I'm going to make a Facebook post that I've got a new program and then just sit and wait. Or I'm going to send an email out and then I'm just going to hope people are going to, click on the link and then pay. Because how many times has that happened to you?
I think
in the
it really only happened once.
Right.
Where I put a post out there, and even with that, it was because they were friends with somebody else who was in the program, and so they kind of heard about it, and so I didn't know who they were, and they clicked like. They clicked, not like, but they clicked buy, and I'm like, who is this person?
And it's like, that happens a lot. Most wonderful thing in the world, right?
Right, and it wasn't a one-on-one coaching package. It was to be part of a group. So it was a low cost entry, right? Anytime it's one-on-one, it's not because they saw a Facebook post and they're like, hey, where do I send this money to work with you one-on-one? Like, no, that doesn't happen to me. So.
Yeah. No, it doesn't happen to me. It's not going to happen to anyone listening and watching either. And the second it does, take that as a gift and move on. Don't ever expect it again.
Right.
So, talk right now as we start to wrap this up. Talk right now for you about the value that the work that we did together, the mentor coaching, has brought into your business, and kind of obviously it shows what it's taught you in a lot of ways. But kind of from you, like where have you found the most value in it?
It's that foundation of having that one clear, who do you help and what do you help them with? And it's clear, it's a bouncing off point for pretty much everything, right? So I'm not going to go and start teaching people about accounting, because that's not what I do and that doesn't fit in, but it gives me that clear foundation that everything else builds on. And working with you taught me a lot about what works for me and what doesn't work for me. So, and all, just the pushing, because you had encouraged me to, go and follow up with these people, reach out to them. And I was like, really? That sounds like, I'm not sure I can do that. Like, it was pushing up against my stuff. And you're like, just go and do it. Like 10 people, just go and do it. Make that list. And so I did, and then I called them, and I remember, coming back, and you were like, oh, you called all of them. That's fabulous. And I was like, was I not supposed to? But it was just because I think you were so used to people like getting hung up on their own stuff, which I do a lot of, just that hadn't been one of the spots I did that. So just that those foundation things that are so important, that sometimes when we're in the mix of getting a business started, we get so hung up on things that we don't need to worry about right now, that we miss those basic things of, how do we talk to people? How do we do just that grassroots basic pulling, not pulling people, but inviting people to work with us, or knowing who to invite to work with us.
Yeah. It's awesome. Yeah. So Evie, as we wrap this up, I want to bring people to your website, oneinsightcloser.com. So I'll put that up on the screen for everyone. Just tell us, so if there's female entrepreneurs out there, or even entrepreneurs in general that want to take their productivity to a new level, talk about how they can reach out to you and what you can help them with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can head over to One Insight Closer. You can also, if you have any questions or anything, email me at evie@oneinsightcloser.com. That's EVIE. And on the website, you'll see the freebie, how to choose priorities when everything is important. And it's just a really great way to walk through doing a productive brain dump and actually deciding from that brain dump what needs to be done right now versus, getting all of the little things done that aren't as important but give us that sense of satisfaction. It lets you know what really needs to be done right now.
And the thing I also admire about you is you're great at helping other people with that. but then it's like having to have done that with yourself, which you've been able to do. And even with the group with other people, you know, and I heard you as you started to help some of those people in our live conversations. I'm like, man, she knows what she's talking about, you know?